Hey everyone, it's Nathaniel. The new Tool album came out on Friday, 2 days ago, and I got to listen and dance through it yesterday. And I love it, of course, and I just really feel the need to talk about it. So you get to hear about it now. If you have never heard of Tool, or you have maybe, and whatever, they're kind of like, look, this new album, just the box, the physical thing, I think you can find it all over the internet for free, and you can find what's in this box online for free too. So if you don't know someone who has a physical copy that can open the box all the way and show you inside, check it out somehow, because it's out there. But I just can't imagine that if you saw what they have got, the art inside, that you wouldn't be like, wow, like, I might want to hear this, like, check it out kind of thing. But anyway, I'm assuming that anybody that is kind of watching this has probably got some inkling of an interest in Tool or their new album or, all that kind of stuff. And so I am going to break down some things that have been very exciting about this band and this piece so far. So the title of this album is Fear Inoculum, and that's also the title of their first track. The whole idea of an inoculum is something that gives an inoculation, which is like where you get an immunization, like when if you get a vaccine, and you get a part of the virus or the dead virus that then makes you immune to more of it. So it's like a small dose of something that inoculates and then creates kind of a immunization against a larger form of it. So that's an interesting concept that the album is playing with as a whole. And that first track, there are 7 tracks to the CD that are considered like main tracks. That theme of 7 is going on in it. There are 3 other tracks that make a total of 10, and those 3 other tracks are interludes. Out of those 7 songs that are core tracks, one of them is purely instrumental, and that one has no words. So I have listened to and read the lyrics and everything. The lyrics are in the box with some amazing art of its own. I mean, sacred geometry everywhere. Yin and yang. It's just, I'm going to talk about the concept of the art that's associated with the album too. But the 6 songs with words, each are their own thing, of course, as every song and everything is, but there seems like there could be a story, and I'm sure there's multiple stories, and I've only listened to it a little bit and gotten a little taste, but I see a story in these 6 songs that I want to kind of piece together a little bit for you. And then, there's some themes. If you, A Perfect Circle is the other band that Maynard is the singer for. He also sings for Pussifer. But Tool and A Perfect Circle, I'll talk about that a lot later, but they're 2 sides of a coin. And there's another recent album with some similar themes, but different, with this album. And it's just based kind of what's going on in our collective in a timely fashion. And this music is just, it is art, it is music, it is beauty, it is like my necklace, it is glow in the dark. Tool is glow in the dark music, is what I would kind of say. It is very, you think about heavy and light being opposites. Tool is a paradox, heavy and light. There's also, when we think about light, we also think about the opposite being dark. And there is a darkness with Tool. There's this, this idea of, a little bit of fear to make you immune against a bigger amount. Anyone with metaphysical, astrological symbolism, there's a lot of energy to Tool that resonates with Saturn, with Pluto, with the sign Scorpio, and I love all that combination working in it. But it's there's a glow in the dark quality. Is what I would call it as. I'm not going to show you any of the pictures in this awesome lyric book, but I will kind of use it as a reference. I was joking earlier, it's I feel like this is like a hymnal, and when you go to a Tool concert, it's like a woo, the spirit is celebrating. Because let me tell you, since this new music has come out, I feel like my soul is on fire and my spirit is burning bright, and it's just great kind of audio music medicine. Challenge you to find a well, everyone's got opinions, but a more mystical, mythical, whatever type of band than whatever this art is they're creating. So this first song, so there's a 6-stage arc in this album, and I'm gonna sum things up. And I might use some of the lyrics, but I'm not gonna like read the whole thing or anything. But Fear Inoculum feels and presents itself as like a prayer or an invocation or like a wizard's ritual to banish this fear, to be done with this kind of this virus, and so it's talking about the venom of this mania of getting like hyped up and excited and not trusting others, not believing in the things like light, and this breath and this fear the others for eternity. But it's like now I inhale the clarity, and so I'm inoculated and I bless this immunity. So there's this attitude of like a gratefulness too, but it's like I'm stopping with ingesting the venom, and I'm receiving this fear inoculum. Calculating steps away from you. It's like I'm distancing from that fear virus. The fear virus I'm now becoming immune to. And it's forfeiting all control. The way that the fear virus controls that poison, that spectacle, we exorcise that demon. Exercise is like, is written as in like, exercising demons, but like also like exercise when you work out, you're burning things up and out. So there's like a parallel in those words and stuff. And so it's a calling in and an invocation to purge and evacuate the venom and the fear that binds me. The veil is now lifted away. I see you running, scattered. This deceiver, this fear, this illusion, this evil, this sin is now getting chased away, and it's been a long time coming. And so there's this, it's an invocation of an intention that we banish this fear, that we're done, and we bless the immunity to it from seeing it in some sort. So that's how it opens up. The second song is called Pneuma, and I'm oversimplifying everything, I'm sure, like I'm just having fun with this. Pneuma is a remembering of the essential spiritual part of our nature. It is the, now that we set this invitation and invocation and intention to banish the fear, and we've had the clarity, now we remember that we are spirit. We are born of one breath, of one word, of one spark, sun becoming. We are becoming the sun, Christ consciousness, the solar identity, this bright, we are all one spark, all that. And so it's like remembering and plugging into spirit. It's like, going online. So it's like, waking up, wake up, child, remember, that we are this one, and that we are becoming pneuma, become pneuma. Pneuma is a word that translates to spirit and breath, and so this concept, so, we're inoculated against this fear that has had us holding our breath and not breathing, flowing, all these kind of things. And so we remember. When you remember, the arm is a member of your body. You remember, you reconnect. So it's reconnecting and plugging into spirit and that idea that we are all one, and remembering our spark and our sun nature. So that's the second kind of verse in the 6-part dialogue of articulation. The third song is Invincible, and Invincible is like the warrior archetype for sure, but it's like one that's gotten run down over time, but still remembers the glory days. And it's representative of the ego always being ready to battle. So it's like, in the sense of always, the personality and leading with the earthly sense of ourself. If we think about, pneumos, remembering the higher self, it's like the lower self is still like used to like doing all this battling. It's also the extent to which ego and materialism and that kind of idea has been the winning strategy in the world at large. The materialism has been what matters, and so, like, if there's a battle to win or something to accomplish, charging forward with that ego, personality, mundane self has been what has won all the battles in the past. So we're longing for another win, to conquer again. That the ego wants that personal glory, or that all those things that the ego self is symbolic of. So we're ready to lurch into the fray, weapon out and belly in. So to be this warrior, bellow about where I've been, those glory days. It's all this reference to Caligula, all the battles won and the gory glory that has accomplished in the past. But now the armor's wearing thin. That ego armor and all of that way of doing things that's focused on this ego-based plane, that approach is no longer sustainable. It's wearing thin, and the warrior is struggling to remain relevant. This ego fight and struggle isn't relevant in this new paradigm. Chasing Ponce de Leon's phantoms, that's a reference to looking for the fountain of youth, this idea that I can live forever and be immortal, but it's the ego, body, individuality trying to be immortal. It's like, I want my personality and body and everything forever young and forever. Well, you are immortal, but it's that spirit pneuma part that is, and so when the lower part, the personality, is trying to conquer everything and be immortal, it's an illusion. And so it says, false hopes perhaps, but the truth never got in my way before now. The truth is starting to happen, and all of these illusions are crumbling, as is the fallacy of the ego self being exalted. And any type of old archetypal warrior energy that's still driving and fighting through the material plane, and trying for the material satisfaction, it's the armor's wearing thin in some respect. And time is bearing down, the gravity, all of those kind of things, that approach isn't sustainable. So the warrior and the ego and the conquistador and the force that wants to conquer and be ahead of others and have the fame and have the glory all for the ego, that's not working. There's ways that this plugs into collective concerns too. So any authority figures or operating systems that have been trying to work in that manner are starting to fail also, because that whole concept and way of being is no longer sustainable. Anyway, going to move on. So from that, as the ego death, I would kind of call that like an ego death type of song. So we have like, I intend to, banish this fear. I'm immune now. Fear inoculum. I remember the connection to source, pneuma. And this old, the ego is still struggling. And I realize time's wearing thin and it's breaking down and invincible. Now in descending, I'm like floating and descending or free falling in that sense, but it's like, as with that end, as the invincible warrior's armor goes down, then we're floating in this kind of dreamy slumber, and come our end suddenly. We've been asleep for so long, and there's this kind of quickened dissolution. So it's like everything is kind of ready to be at the swan song epilogue point of where we have brought things from this sleeping for so long and not remembering, and how long that warrior has been fighting. There's now this time where things concede suddenly. There is like a quickening of like it's like that's coming to an end, and it's got this, pray we mitigate our rune. As all these old systems collapse, there is that idea of destructuring before restructuring. So it's saying to stir us from this slumber so we can mitigate this ruin. So we are now like almost descending in a sense with the floating and the free falling. It's like meditative, but you can't float forever. It's not infinite, and falling isn't flying. But we are waking up from this dream, and we are praying that we can mitigate the ruin by calling all to arms and order. So from this chaos, like by reorganizing, organizing, like organs in the body that are all interconnected, like different components of a group, organizing and call to arms. You can think of call to arms as battle, and it would be battle like not like the invincible ego warrior, but like it's from the song Invincible, but battling like the inner warrior, but also call to arms I see as like holding hands, holding arms with other people. So to call to arms and order. So an order for a higher good, organization, order, all that. So it's in this floating, as we wake up, descending, then we, pray we mitigate this ruin. Sound the dread alarm through our primal body. So it's like we're waking up and like, oh my gosh, we have to do something kind of quick or something. One drive to stay alive, and so that's kind of the sense of descending. That's the lyrical sense. There's so many other levels to all of these songs again. There's so much I'm not even touching on. I'm sure I'm just giving you impressions. So after that state in the story, Culling Voices is, waking up. There are all of these voices from within that are, it's saying, can cause suspicious tendencies, and the word psychopathy. And so this song in a nutshell is like culling means to get rid of or to cut and to harvest away any of these voices that are psychopathic, and that means like antisocial and hateful and harmful and ego bloated and engorged, that are misleading, that are making me suspicious, that are imagine interplay of like things that haven't happened that gets you agitated, always worrying, always fretting, always thinking the worst. And these voices are a lot of our own inner dialogue that's been scrambled from so much fear through a lot of different sources, the media, different things that we see and consume that can program that kind of response and make it a natural loop. This fear, these fear voices, and so they can make us become psychopathic, afraid of people and angry, and think that we're fighting for our survival, and all these things that get us amped up into this primal kind of reactive state. And those voices can be from within, from watching things in the environment or on TV or that make us feel like we have to respond in that way. And then imagine, if you will, that some of this, like the disembodied voices, can also be from other places that are doing the same thing. So if you think about there being invisible beings like angels and ETs and everything else that you can, angels and demons and ETs and imps and divas and elementals and whatever, a lot of stuff that's invisible, like that, that can communicate. Not everything with a voice is necessarily in your best interest. If there's things that feed on fear and you aren't producing fear anymore, you're not sustainable for something